Hello, and welcome to another Stellarian Games video. In this episode, we're going to be looking at how to make some Dwarven doors. The varieties of doors that we're going to be looking at are these large double doors that can be used as a gate or a formal throne room or something like that, and some smaller doors like these that are basically your run-of-the-mill hallway doors that you might run into at any various different junction in a dungeon. These Dwarven doors were part of a themed set that I've been working on to allow my players to explore kind of some old Dwarven ruins. And these doors just add that little bit of flavor to say this space was Dwarven, not just some random hole that they're crawling through with some cheap wooden doors. These are nice Dwarven doors, and you can tell that they're well crafted and well made. In my story, they're very old doors, so I wanted them to feel old and ancient, and yet at the same time marvelously crafted in a way that the locking mechanisms still work after hundreds of years. That they have certain magical qualities about them still remaining up to this day. So that's the thought behind these doors. So let's go to the table and see how they're done. Okay, for this craft, we're going to use medium weight chipboard. This is a little bit thinner variety than some of the other thicker varieties I've used. I'm tracing out the pattern for the doors on this chipboard, making some smaller doors and larger doors, and putting in those bevels in the corner of each of the doors that gives it sort of that classic Dwarven look. Now we're going to take those and trace them onto some pink styrofoam. This is, I believe, 1-inch thick styrofoam, and we're only going to do one set of doors, and then we'll slice it thinner on the hot wire cutter. So we're just cutting out the pattern for the door, and then setting up the guide and slicing them into thinner doors that we can use as multiples. Now we're cutting out the hollows for the inside of each of these doors, so we're going to see the pink styrofoam showing through. This is just creating the frame for each of the doors. For the large doors, I'm trying to make it a little bit more elaborate and cutting those out so that it has kind of a place for the locking mechanism, and then on the back side it has the strap hinges as well. Then I'm using a ballpoint pen and putting in some decorative details for these doors. These just have kind of a small hammer icon, and then for other ones I'm putting in kind of a wood grain texture. So some will have kind of an iron binding with wood, and others will be kind of a solid metal door. For the main door, I'm putting in a little bit more decoration. This is going to be for kind of a large main gate. Putting in some runes, and now gluing on those bracing pieces around the outside of the door. This will give it some three-dimensional depth to the doors. I'm taking some small jump rings and attaching a small bead into this jump ring. That will form kind of the hinge point for each of these rings to act as door handles. Now using a bit of tacky glue and gluing on each of those rings and beads to make it look like door handles. I'm going to repeat the same process on the other side, but just making sure that the door handle is on the same side so that it would open away from whatever hinge side there is. Now using the ballpoint pen and adding a little bit more decorative detail to the larger doors. I wanted this to have sort of a nice Dwarven inscription look to it without getting too fancy. Now I have a toothpick, and using that tacky glue and putting just a drop of that tacky glue onto the door to act as small rivets. It's a little bit hard to see in the final product, but it does have a nice texture when it's done. Once all that's dry, we're going to use the black paint and Mod Podge to seal up the entire piece. And then putting a dark brown on that wood section for the doors. And then the rest of them get a kind of a silver, sort of a dry brush over the main part of the door. I'm coming along with a bronze color and filling in some of the door. That adds a lot of richness and texture to the pieces. And last step, I'm using a black wash to add a little bit of depth to all of it. And here's the final product. This ended up with a double gate that can open up wide. That allows players to open the doors and enter a main hallway. It also has many of these smaller doors, both the wood ones and the metal doors. And so far, it's been a nice collection to have as part of a dungeon terrain. So I hope you like this video. If you do, please hit the like button and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.